Hey, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Savage Goose Show, where we talk about all things Savage Goose and all things Savage Worlds, usually. Actually, we are going to talk about a lot about Savage World stuff, but today we are also going to talk about the Ennies, which actually means talking about a lot of games that are not Savage Worlds. And so we're gonna dive into that. We're going to talk about the Ennies. We're going to talk about who won them. We're going to talk about why it matters, and just kind of my general thoughts on everything. First, let's get into the newsletter. And hopefully everyone can see that. Here, I'm actually going to make it a little bit smaller so that things looks a little bit easier to read, hopefully. There we go. So first, small newsletter this week. Nothing a whole lot going on. We do have a week 3 update on Doomguard campaign. There's a bunch of new stretch goals with new heroes, new STLs you can get. You can get a whole bunch of other stuff going on, new minions, local stuff. They're currently just shy of 75,000 last I checked. And that is what's going on with that. Now, Doomguard, for those who don't know, this is not a role-playing game. This is a tabletop board game being released by Pinnacle Entertainment Group, the people who make Savage Worlds. They were releasing their first ever board game. It's going to also be accompanied, though, by a Necessary Evil book. This is a Doomguard book, so if you want to play as the Doomguard, the characters from the board game, in the Necessary Evil campaign setting for Savage Worlds, you can also get this book as well as part of it. Next week, we are actually going to be talking with John Matthew DeFoggy, who is the writer of this book, and talking with him about everything. He usually is on the Savage Universe stream, which we'll talk about here in a moment, but he's going to be on our stream this time, and we're going to talk about Evil. I'm pretty excited because this is the first time I've had someone from Pinnacle come on to talk about a Pinnacle product. I've had people from Pinnacle come on to talk about their own things they're doing, but the first time I've had someone from Pinnacle come to talk about Pinnacle products. So I'm pretty excited for that. So we'll, and I love JM, so we'll have a good time, I'm sure. But if you want to hear more about that, next week we talk about the Doomguard book, and maybe we'll also get some questions about maybe the what's going on in the game itself, in the tabletop role-playing game, in the tabletop board game of Doomguard. So come back next week and we can talk all about that. Next up is just what did Peg do at GenCon? It's just a little kind of update. GenCon's done. It was this past weekend. I knew so many people who were there that I really wish I could have been there. Different hosts of different channels that I'm friends with, like not just like hosts, like people who have channels that I'm like, they exist, but like people I'm like in fair amount of communication with. I would love to talk to and seen. Game designers that I've talked to, people from Pinnacle I love to have met. But there's a lot going on at GenCon, and unfortunately, I'm currently here in the UK, so it wasn't going to go back home early just for GenCon. Also, probably wouldn't have been able to go anyways. Sorry about that. Either way, they did have a Deadlands game hosted by Daryl Hayhurst. He ran a Deadlands game that was on the GenCon TV channel. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet. Looking forward to. I'm going to watch it, but I'm looking forward to that to see. Just kind of see what did people see when they saw this game of Savage Worlds. I'm very curious to know, like, how did that present to people, and if there's like maybe a comment section, like a Twitch replay, get an idea of what people are saying about Savage Worlds from those comments. It gets my an insight into what people think of the game. So planning on looking back at that. Clint, Jody, Simon Lucas, and Daryl also had a Saturday seminar on just like what's up with Pinnacle, where they do like an update on what's going on with Pinnacle. This is one of those things I really wish that was like recorded and like or streamed or something, because I would love to hear the updates from Pinnacle, like what's going on with the product, what kind of things are going on. They did talk about the future plans, including the active Kickstarter for Doomguard. They talked about Deadlands Dark Ages, which we're going to talk about briefly in a moment, just because, and then upcoming a Deadlands starter box. This is the first time reading some of these parts. I kind of glanced through it real quick. I kind of missed this part. A Deadlands starter box. That is honestly like that's really cool to hear. I will be looking forward to that, because one of the things I mentioned at the beginning here, if you go back to one of my live streams, from the end of last year or the beginning of this year, was like my vision for Savage Worlds this year. And one of those things was that we would release that we, as Pinnacle, we would see a starter box for Savage Worlds. Now I have my own idea of what that could have looked like, but I think that relying on the IP of Deadlands for a starter box is a perfectly legitimate move, and something I would accept as like that, and fulfilling what I would like to see. I'm very curious to see what's in that starter box. I would expect it have to be like, I don't know, like an adventure, pre-written character sheets, maybe the player's book for Savage Worlds, and maybe like a simplified like player's book for Deadlands or something like that. Yeah, I don't know what would be in that, and I'm hoping it is like an affordable starter box, because that does, as you kind of look at the industry right now, it does seem like it's the popular thing to do, is to create starter boxes, and it's one of the things that I know at least some people really feel like it's like the sign of a good game is when they release a good starter set. Looking at D&D did a starter set. I remember like that was my first starter set for let's see, for 4th edition. I got a starter set, didn't go past that. Got the starter set for 5e. I actually got 2 of the starter sets for 5e, or like the Essentials box and starter set. The Lost Mine and Endeavor one is just iconic, and the new one that's coming out for D&D looks like it's going to be really good. Who else? The box that you get with not Telsmall, sorry. With Daggerheart is very Star Set-esque. It's like it's a contained thing with lots of different like trinkets and stuff. So yeah, I'm curious to see what that looks like for Deadlands Star Set. So moving on from there, let's see here. They also are doing. They mentioned the Deadlands Mysterious Maze, as that's part they're working on, and the Carrying Crown campaign. So this is like a full adventure path, like the like Rise of the Rune Lords, and the other one, like the Crimson Throne, Curse of the Crimson Throne, and the next one's going to be Carrying Crown for Savage Pathfinder. So that's really exciting. There's also discussion of some of their plans for next year's 30th anniversary celebration of Deadlands. So next year will mark 30 years from Deadlands, not from Savage Worlds, because Deadlands actually started before Savage Worlds. So next year will mark 30th anniversary for Deadlands, and they're going to do some, so according to this, a very special face-to-face event. So we'll see what that looks like. So that's going to be more of it coming out next few months. And then obviously, C2 Publishing had an area where they could see all the Savage Worlds products and everything that they've done with partners like Palladium Books for Rifts and Paizo for Savage Pathfinder. So really cool to see. I'm super, super excited for what we can see coming up in Savage Worlds. And hopefully we'll hear more from like Gamehole Con and those other conventions that Pinnacle people tend to frequent. So very exciting. That Deadlands starter box is the thing I'm very excited, probably the most excited to see. So let's go with that. This Thursday on the Savage Universe. It says August 4th. Wasn't that yesterday? This Thursday. Yeah, okay. I guess the 4th is not the correct date, because that was that's yesterday. Oh well. This Thursday, JM is going to talk to Mike Lafferty of the Go Games, who is responsible for the games like The After and Cocaine Owlbear, and they're going to talk about Starbeard, which is like dwarves in space mining stuff. Part of an organization called Damn It. The Dwarven Assault Mining Initialization Interception Team. So pretty cool. They've done something with this setting before as its own game, but this is going to be for Savage Worlds specifically, called Starbeard. So I'm go over and watch that. I'm planning on meeting with Mike as well. We're still trying to work out a time or finalize a time to meet together and talk about Starbeards ourselves. But if you want to get a little heads up, go check out that stream. If you don't get some sort of question asked or answered about Starbeards from that stream, come to this stream and we can ask those questions here. So looking forward to meeting with Mike to talk about that. And then here's some shapes to come of things that are going on. Yeah, I mean, I'm right now at this point, I'm just waiting for this Deadlands stuff to come up. And then I'll start. I have a lot of Kickstarters. I feel like I'm waiting for stuff, and I'm just like, I'm ready to get the stuff. I want to get the books in my hands. So that's the newsletter. Head back to our Kickstarters. We'll talk about some Kickstarters, then we'll talk about a little bit of other news before we dive into our main topic. First Kickstarter, I forgot to put the end date in here, but Doomguard will end eventually. Is going on currently. If you're interested in Doomguard as the tabletop board game, go check that out. There's a link down below. Launching in September is Fazeworld. This is a Rifts dimension setting, and it's being brought into Savage Worlds. So Pinnacle has brought Rifts into Savage Worlds through Palladium Books. Star Anvil Studios, which is a third-party publisher, is also going to bring in their own Rift stuff from Palladium, which is Fazeworld. It's a different part of the larger universe of Rifts. I'm not super familiar with Rifts to know like what all the pieces are together, but I will be meeting with Brandon in a few weeks, sometime in September, to talk. Or sorry, I think it's like the last Tuesday in August. We'll be meeting together to talk about Fazeworld. And so if you have questions about Fazeworld, let me know. I can answer them in the, get them all compiled and ready to ask Brandon back then. I'll have a better audio setup then because I'll be back home at my regular studio space. So look forward to that. Also launching in September, according to, this is not like an official thing, but according to a comment on Facebook from Shane, launching in September is going to be Deadlands Dark Ages. I'm going to try to hold him to that, but I don't actually have any power over it. I don't think I've ever had a conversation with Shane, and that wasn't through comments on Facebook, so I don't really have any power at all. But he did say it. I saw it. I think I even screenshotted it. So hopefully it comes. I'm super excited for Deadlands Dark Ages. I've been super excited for Deadlands Dark Ages since Suede was first announced, because they released this adventure with the Suede Kickstarter way back then, and we've been waiting for this for years. And I really hope this year we're finally getting Deadlands Dark Ages. I really, really hope it's finally happening. But but according to Shane, it's happening this September. So look out for that. Look out for Rifts and for Fazeworld and for Deadlands Dark Ages. Hellbent. This is a show that's being put on by the Saving Throw Show YouTube channel, specifically by Don Zook. He was known as Ron Tegal Stevens in the ETU actual play, one of the best actual plays for Savage Worlds out there. There's a few other ones I really like, but I really like that one as well. And he is an amazing producer, and he's putting on a very, very professional Hellbent game for an actual play. Now, in order to do this, though, in order to actually do it at the professional level he's trying to accomplish, he does need some initial funding to pay for props, pay for actors. By actors, I mean like people who are going to play the game, but they'll be like voice actors and such, and pay for the game master. So in order to do that, he's trying to fund $6,000 by August 15th. He is not going to cancel the project. He doesn't get there. He just means it's going to get delayed unless they can get that money. But I am hoping we can get there by August 15th, because I know what Dom is capable of producing, and I know he can produce some really good stuff. And based on the information he's given me about who's going to be the game master and all that, I am super excited for this, and I really would like to see it come to fruition. If you have any questions, you can go over to a link down below. There should be a link down below for Hellbent. If there's not, let me know, and I'll try to find that one later and post it. But if you go to their channel website, you'll find all the information about that, and you should be able to find a link for Hellbent, and you can join their either give one-time donations or become a recurring partner, or you can kind of like a Patreon essentially. They call it Fourth Wall. But yeah, check that out. I'm super excited for this, and hopefully it'll end up happening. I know that they're a decent ways away from getting their funding goal. I think they're at 60% right now, and that only leaves about 10 days to get the rest of those funds in to produce this on time. So if you would like to help, check it out. Alrighty. Next up, okay, so I apparently forgot to put in a slide here, but let's go ahead and just jump in and talk about Ennies. For those who don't know, let's go ahead and remove this for now. For those who don't know what the Ennies are, the Ennies is an award show that happens every year at GenCon, and there's basically a bunch of products that are set in, produced by people to get nominated for the Ennies. A bunch of judges look over all the products. They have a bunch of different categories, and then the judges then put them up as a nomination for the different categories. The people like us, so this can go in and vote for their favorite, and it's kind of like an honor system that they have some level of control over, preventing people from double voting, but they do basically just on an honor system say, hey, don't vote, don't double vote once, and then we'll announce the winners. And they announce the winners at every Gen Con. I don't think there was any SavageWorld products this time, so that's kind of the reason why. But I do want to talk about it because I think it's really interesting to see what cool things are out there that we might be able to steal from to put into our Savage Worlds games, or like adapt for Savage Worlds. There's been a lot of other cool things. I love reading different rule books and getting ideas for what people really like about certain games, and seeing if they are things that we can pull into Savage Worlds or for our own games to increase the level of fun. Not to increase complexity, because I don't want to increase complexity, but to increase the level of fun that we are having. So what games won this year? There's a lot of different categories, and we can go over. I'm going to briefly go over the ones that kind of really came out to me. The ones that won several awards. I'll go over through those ones, and then we can briefly go through the list, and I'll pick out a few categories that I think are important to look at and get an idea for, and see like what kind of things people are really enjoying. But there's a few categories or a few games that won lots of awards, and I wanted to go over those first. So the first one was this game called The Triangle Agency. It won gold for best game, best rules, and best writing. And I had to do some research on this game to make sure I understood like what it was about. And this game is about you joining an agency where you are kind of fighting off different paranormal things, right? Like X-Files, or I don't remember all the different things, Ghostbusters, that kind of stuff. Where you're fighting off not necessarily extraterrestrials, but like some sort of supernatural or preternatural things are out there. And then you're part of this agency that does it. What's really weird about this game is that when I was looking into like how it works, is that you can make advancements in certain areas of your character, and when you do, and you unlock certain things, at that point, when you unlock it, you get to see what it is, what abilities you get. So basically, in the book, there's like this like play wall, they call it, not a paywall, but a play wall, where it's like as you play, you get to unlock certain parts of the book. Not the game master. The game master gets to know everything. The game master can read through everything. But as a player, you don't get to know a whole bunch of stuff until you basically play through it and start advancing your character. And I thought that was really interesting. So basically, this means that this book, as this RPG, can really only be truly played through once. I can imagine that there's going to be people like David, who I saw in the comments. I'm not sure he's still here, but who would probably want to play through this game multiple times to do like a speed run, or do like what's the alternate endings, what different decisions should I make to get different things, that kind of thing. But it's kind of like those kind of games, or like video games, but like in a book. And I thought that was really interesting. I don't know if it's my cup of tea. Like something, and I don't. Looking at it, it didn't seem there was anything that would be something that we could really like pull in for Savage Worlds for a more normal RPG. This is very more abstract as a tabletop role-playing game. According to the video I was watching, the character sheet is 7 pages long. And I think it's not because like there's a lot of like stuff. It's just like there's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of places to write in details that you kind of learn along the way. So like you don't necessarily would reference everything you learn, reference all the pages all the time. You might only reference certain pages. But yeah, it seemed complex. It seemed really odd. And it's something not something you would homebrew. It's not like a system you would take and like create your own thing for. This is kind of like a all-in-one. It's its own thing, and it can't really be anything else without like basically creating a whole new product. So really interesting product, really interesting game from what I could see, but I don't think it's something I would necessarily want to run. But yeah, interesting nonetheless. Again, if you guys have any comments about these games, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. If you know anything about them, please just let me know. I'd like to hear. The next game is The Land of Eam. This one, gold for best family game or product, and 1 gold for best monster adversary bestiary type product, and got silver for best production values. The general aesthetic of this game definitely lends itself more to like family. And also, again, you can see like it says it's a family game. If you look at the box though, it does say you're supposed to be 12 plus to play, because it is a little more complicated. They're going for more of an OSR aesthetic in a sense, but when I was reading through or watching videos about like talking about this game and like it's showing how the game works, it definitely felt more complicated than most OSR games that I'm used to seeing. Now, my OSR experience is very limited. It's basically limited to like Cairn, and Shadow Dark, essentially. And people would even say that Shadow Dark's really OSR, so great salt there. But based on what I was reading through here, or watching, it seemed like this was more complicated than Shadow Dark was. So there's more to it. But nevertheless, it did seem like it was an interesting game. Very colorful, very vibrant game. Definitely more family oriented. Definitely didn't take itself as seriously as like D&D as some other games, but it definitely had plenty of rules. One of the things they also mentioned in this game is that it does have a lot of mechanics for social stuff. Now, I think Sabotage does a perfectly fine job of mechanics for social stuff. This maybe took it another step above. And it's always a balance when it comes to social encounters, how much you want to require or say this is what your character does in the game via the rules versus just saying you do the thing and then the GM makes a ruling on what you need to roll to see if that was persuasive or not. Like, what comes first? Does the mechanics come first or does the roleplay come first when it comes to kind of a social encounter? So it seems like they push it more onto the mechanics to kind of flush out the social based on that. Overall, I don't think it's a game that I would pick up. I'm more likely to pick this up than I am to pick up Triangle Agency. But they're also working on another version of this game. They're like, I'm not sure it's gonna be like another version and their supplement that's gonna make it even easier for people who are even younger, second graders and such. I'm looking for a game that's gonna work for my 6 and 4-year-old, right? That's the kind of game I'm looking for. And there's games out there that do it, but I haven't found one that I've been super thrilled with, right? But that's Land of Beam. It won a lot of awards. I'm sure it's a good product. It just doesn't seem like it's probably not necessarily my cup of tea. Definitely more so though than Triangle Agency. The next game, I feel like this game's been talked about a lot amongst game designers. That's Mothership. It is definitely a more rules-like game. I kind of watched the video. I didn't fully understand the rules, but from the review videos I was watching, but I could tell that there is less to do in Mothership. Now, Mothership won Best Aid and Accessory Digital, and that was for their online character builder. So you go online, build a character, no problem. I don't think you have to sign in or anything. From that, you also had Best Production Values, specifically for the Deluxe Edition box set. And then Best Supplement, which is a particular book in the box set, which is the Game Warden's Guide, or Game Warden's something like that. So it got 3 gold awards for Mothership, and again, it's a sci-fi horror RPG. It's definitely a little bit more rules light. Look at the reviews I was looking at, the PDFs, or the books, I should say, the PDFs. The booklets are fairly small. Like, the rules of this game definitely are like booklet size, not as much to this game. The character sheets seem fairly simple, not like too much going on. And it seemed pretty straightforward. It's a D100 game, and it's a D100 roll under, I believe, game. I think it's roll under, not roll over. And then doubles are like criticals, whether critical failure or critical success. So definitely an interesting game. Again, it's not fantasy. It's a game I would like to try. I don't think I'd be interested in running a campaign through it, but I would like to play a one-shot in the system just to get a feel for it, right? Maybe I'll find out that I would like to run a game in it. Again, though, I didn't feel like there was anything, as I was watching reviews, I didn't feel like there was anything in this game that was going to help with Savage Worlds. Now, I do think this is one of those games that we should analyze to see what does it mean to look like a scary game, essentially. What causes fear in players. That's one of the things I don't know if, despite the fact that there's a lot of horror stuff in Savage Worlds, I feel it's more on theme, not on actual feeling of players. And so I am curious what can actually cause fear in players. I like seeing that in tabletop role-playing games. Try to figure out, pull out what can cause that kind of fear feeling of dread. In the game of Dread, it's the fact that one wrong move of you pulling out a block on a Jenga tower is that it falls down, your character dies. So there's definitely things that can cause dread. And I'd like to see what this game does to cause that level of dread. I think it's the last of those 4 games I really wanted to pull out. This is the last one. This is the one I am the most confused by. They got gold for best art, best layout, and then product of the year for silver product of the year. So this is Mythic Bastionlands, which really doesn't tell you pretty much anything about the game. I watched a review of this just to get an idea for it, and I kind of left still a little bit confused. And I'm also realizing I'm just not remembering much of it because it just didn't seem very notable to me. Not that I'm sure it's a great game, and it looks the things that won awards for is like art and layout and such. And the world seemed a bit. I don't know. I don't know what to say about this one. It didn't catch me, and as much as like Mothership and Land of Eam did. The art does look cool. I do like the art, and the game seems interesting. I'm just not sure. Like, if I understood the system or the setting enough to really give you like much opinion on it. I probably have to watch 2 more like review videos to get more of an idea of what this game is like. So I apologize that I can't give you more thoughts on it, but because I didn't really fully understand like if it was like rules complicated, rules light, or anything like that either. Again, but if you know anything about this game, please leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts. I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on this. So that's all the ones I kind of had prepared for that I wanted to like, or all the ones I found that had like multiple awards. There are a few other ones that had like 2 awards. There's one product for the One Ring RPG that did have like 3 awards as well, like best cartography. And what was that? That was the One Ring Moria Through the Doors of Durin. It won best cartography, best supplement for silver, but best supplement, and then it won product of the year. So if you're playing the One Ring, this is a really good product. Go check it out. Nothing I really wanted to mention too much about. And then I'll just go ahead and just kind of share this page as well. This is a list of all of the winners from this year, like all the nominees and all the winners. Obviously, one of the winners was a game called Sweet Dreams Are Made of These, which is a 5e adventure. Sweet Dreams Are Made of Geese. I will have to play that at some point. I will just convert it using my video that I made about how to convert things to Savage Worlds, and I'll probably just play this in Savage Worlds, but I'll have to play this at some point. Escape from Mammoth Cave is also interesting to me just because I'd love to go to Mammoth Cave. It's in Kentucky, and I'd love to see that. But let's pull out a few things here. Best Adventure long form, we have Crown of Salt and The Shrike. Based on my brief look at this, I think they're both more OSR type games, which I feel like we're seeing a rise of. I feel there's a lot more stuff happening at GenCon that is going towards more OSR or towards more rulings-based games over rules-based games. And for the most part, I'm here for it. But I feel like that's something that's been happening. So that there's more and more winners are going towards like this OSR style game. And I do wonder what that means for certain games. And, if the games are going for more rulings and more narrative focus. And I don't think those necessarily go together. But I think it's an interesting observation from the winners of some of these Ennies. Best Adventure short form. Didn't look into these too much. I didn't know much about them. The one other things I want to pull out. Best game, best free game. Best free game is included a game called Grimwild Free Edition. I looked it up. I actually purchased it on TTRPG before this stream. I didn't get it all into the PDF. I haven't even downloaded it yet. But again, it can still give that vibe, that same like sort of like adventure vibe of it maybe being a more rules light type game, maybe a little more OSR like. I have the same like kind of sort of feeling about His Majesty the Worm, and a few other games in here as well. But yeah, Triangle Agency did not give me that vibe at all. So that's and then there was a few other ones here that I wanted to mention. Let me have about it. Product values. Mothership Deluxe set. One of the best RPG related products from Chaosium is HP Lovecraft's At the Madness of HP Lovecraft's At the Mountain of Madness for beginner readers. And it's basically a Dr. Seuss book that's like H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness. So that's pretty funny and pretty good. Definitely have to get one of these for my kids at some point. We have best rules, best settings. We have Call of Cthulhu for Cthulhu Ireland, and RuneQuest, the lands of RuneQuest. Best. I'm trying to find anything else I want to pull out. I think that's about it. So yeah, that's all I really have. I thought it was just super interesting to look at these products and see like what is the community, the larger tabletop community, wanting from gaming. Like, what are the things that they're really enjoying? And obviously, we have a large diversity of what gamers like, and that's something that I've been on my mind is all different kinds of gamers and kind of how we can meet in the middle sometimes. So like in my people I'm friends with, we have people who are on large different spaces of the spectrum of like what kind of games they enjoy. I have one person who really likes Cairn because it's so rules light, so like rulings based. Whereas I have someone else who's like really into Pathfinder First Edition and like all of the rules throughout all of the splat books and everything, and he like really loves that. And I find myself somewhere in the middle where I want Savage Worlds, which I feel like is somewhere in the middle. But yeah, so I think it's interesting to see what kind of games people are liking. I think it's see where the industry is heading and where people are kind of gravitating towards. And for the most part, it feels like people are gravitating towards more OSR or more rules light or more narrative driven, putting air quotes around these games, rather than super crunchy tactical games. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on that. If you have any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear it. But that's all I have for today. It was great talking to you guys. And again, next week I am booked for the next 4 weeks on stuff. Next week we're going to talk about with JM Defagi about the Doomguard book for the Doomguard tabletop board game and how that fits into Necessary Evil. We are going to talk about then I'll have a week off because I'll be traveling back to America. The week after that, we'll be meeting up with Brandon from Starbeard Studios to talk about Fazeworld. Week after that, we will be talking about the Swagtember release. So super excited to talk about Swagtember. I love Swagtember because I love all the cool products we get in Swagtember. So looking forward to that. And then in the week after that, I'm planning currently to meet up with Mike Lafferty over at Fainting Goat Studios to talk about Starbeard. So look forward to that. And I will see you all next week. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. I'm looking forward to being back in America where I can do this at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Cheers, everybody.